In 2016, my family took an adventure to Fiji. We stayed in the island of, I think it was Viti Levu. And when we got there, we went right to bed because it was the other side of the world. They're one day ahead of where we lived, and we stayed at the Denarau World Mark Resort. And this was our flight there, and our wonderful pilot with Fiji Airways. And there's a story about why we went to Fiji, and I'll tell that later here. But I had my kids kind of learn about where they were on the earth as we followed the equator and the national dateline and things like that. They're probably about in 5th and 3rd grade. It was also good for them to learn a different culture from ourselves. We went grocery shopping and bought ramen and mushroom-flavored soy sauce, which was wonderful. I used to take the yellow bus, public transportation. Always good to get to know the locals. I went to the Naughty Food Market. Not naughty, Nandi. They don't have the letter N after the A in Fijian language. So Nandi Food Market. Naughty. But it was nice because it was November and it's the opposite season. So it was like spring for them, but they were still celebrating Christmas. And we had a crab dinner there. And so we went to church in Fiji and met some local folk that were wonderful. Of course, some of them came to America later, and I took them to my church. This is the Reverend David Laguirre Epi's church. I like how they did their little symbol. It's really pretty. The pearl in the hand, El Shaddai Family Worship Center. And it's a picture of when he came to the U.S. I'll take that out so you can see the full page. But I think dancing is so, and music is so part of the Fijian culture. It's fabulous. So getting to the story, in 1832, my great aunt, Mary Wallis, went to the Philippines with her husband, Captain Benjamin Wallis. These are my 4th great aunt, 3rd great aunt. And I had to kind of uncover the story a little bit. Found that she had written 2 books. She wrote this one, and she wrote this one. And she lived with the cannibals for about 10 years. And the women just adored her. They had their husband, notice one husband, build her a house. And she just shared the gospel with them, and they became Christians. And about 10 years into that, he became a Christian and dedicated the island of Bao to the Lord. And I will share that page. This is where Mary is from. It's Beverly, Massachusetts. And her pastor at the time was Mr. Flanders. And my great-great-uncle was named after him. He was the son of my 3rd great-grandfather who sailed with my aunt and uncle to Fiji in 1832, and he's buried in Beverly, Illinois. So when I went to go research my heritage, I found, and as you can see it here, this is the captain's log that the library at the Peabody Essex Museum found for me. It was a miraculous story. The Holy Spirit told me to go to downtown Salem at 9 o'clock in the morning, and sure enough, they were under construction and said, well, this is our one day a month when we are open to the public in our storage facility. So I got in my car and went and looked, and sure enough, they had the album, or the captain's log, and it was all of Mary's stories. And that captain's log is the same thing as this book right here. I think David Rutledge has done a wonderful job with trying to make sure everything was preserved for Fijian history. Never discount a historian. They hold the humankind in their hand. This is the picture of the anchor on the tombstone of my great-great-great-grandfather in Beverly, Illinois. And here's him and his family. And I have his French teacup. He migrated from France in the early 1800s, and then married my third great-grandmother. And then that's Captain Wallis, a bit aged. So I flew back to San Francisco, where I was living at the time. My husband saw the tickets to Fiji were really cheap, and I said, we're going. So that was a sign from the Lord that we needed to go. And it was cute. So we decided to try to replicate that sailing experience in the Coral Sea. And this is the scrapbook pages of my kids. We did the Captain Cook Cruises sailboat. Had a wonderful host. And when we were snorkeling, we found a purple starfish. So now we kind of bond a little bit with the purple starfish. This is a painting, piece of artwork we purchased. This is a fun story because when the women got on the boat with my great aunt, they stole her best pair of scissors. And that was fun. She got a kick out of that, as she wrote in her book. But she wrote down all their history, all the battles, and their journey of being told about the peace of the Lord. Very peaceful conversion. It wasn't forced, and they were actually saved from violence and repented of their battles, and now they stand as a light in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, light of the gospel. And Methodist Church kind of carried through. It's funny because this is the sand that found its way into my suitcase. So I said, well, I'll take a piece of tape and just go over the bottom of my suitcase, and made it into a strip on the on the page of the book. I think the young ladies in Fiji need to have scholarships to our sea museums or aquariums in the United States to learn and to be able to present, because they know so much. So I had gone to a place called Herrnhut, Germany back in 2010 and realized that the missionaries that went to Fiji had a direct line with John Wesley. And so John Wesley was the founder of the Methodist Church. They carried the fervor of the Lord in their hearts. And I was able to meet with the president of the Methodist Church in Fiji to kind of hand him over a history book. And my friend said, it's my Fijian friend said that they felt like the Lord gave them a sign that the descendants of the missionaries would come back to show the Fijian that God had not given up on Fiji. Because they're having some political struggles, India can be a bit strong. This is the some more missionaries that kind of worked with Mary. He gave up his life, died at the age of 36 in Fiji, and his wife. This is the tale of John Hunt, and his story is in this book here. So we kind of went to the National Museum and learned about the Maasai fabric that the women make. And my friend Andi Thakau, who used to be the Minister of Health and Women's and Minister of Poverty, making sure that people were taken care of in Fiji. And she lives as a citizen now in San Francisco. And I was driving back to her house after my trip, and sure enough, nice little rainbow on a clear day that points right to her house. So then we learned about the bechamel, which is the sea cucumber that my great-great-great-grandfather helped to hunt. And there's his poster in the museum in Fiji. So they were so gracious to take us out to Bow Island. This is the place that Chief Thackenbow dedicated to the Lord. And the Lord watches over it. And it preserves, it's a wonderful preservation of Fijian culture. And it's nice how God has guarded their tribal ways. This was the beach bar area at our resort. A few collected pictures. This was our ride to Suva, all the way across the island. We looked at the stars on the other side of the globe. And we realized that we didn't really need our telescope, but Joshua's new friend, Matatai, he needed it more. So we decided to gift it to him. Look at that wonderful smile. And he was a nice, sweet boy. And had his family over. And then we went to downtown Suva and had McDonald's there. And they have wells that spring up where missions used to be. And there's a new well there that has sprung up. And the water there is very healing. And went to the Fiji Museum also, kind of going a little bit backwards in the story, but the education officer, very wonderful to talk to, and kind of fun to meet history, and the ones who keep history. Some of the Maritime Gallery there. This was our arrival to Bow Island, and pastor there, wonderful to take us to his home to see it. And we prayed. I had brought a cloth with me from the friends in America and presented it to the friends back in Fiji. Just cloth carrying prayers and hopes for protection. This is the tree in center of Bow Island, that just huge and just beautiful. I would say it was probably there in 1855. And I can say I saw what my aunt saw. See how God has preserved the tribal areas. This is a painting from 1855, and I paired it up with what is now present in 2016. And Queen Elizabeth stayed there. Elizabeth II. And darkness became into light, and the pastor showed us the altar where many a soul laid down their lives, and now it's a baptismal vat that's used. So he demonstrated how they would kneel down, put their head in that area there, and then they would be clubbed. And when they converted to Christianity, they walked away from violence and used the baptismal tank to be a baptismal thing, and such. Good use of symbolizing death to life. Then we drove back across the island to the other side. And O.C. took us out for ice cream. He was such a sweet man. He prayed and blessed my son. There's something called Fiji time, where it's basically the joke is that they have a tree bark that holds time still. They say, "You're on Fiji time." Went to the Garden of the Sleeping Giant. So you See the head, arms, knees, and feet. And this is the lady that owns the mineral baths, I think, next to it. And we took public transportation out there. And my daughter discovered the octopus orchid. And when we were snorkeling, an octopus had swum next to her, and it was fun. And it was a nice little gift that the Holy Spirit let her see an octopus and the octopus orchid, because there was only 6 blooms that year, and that was the last one, just waiting for us. Let's see here. 6 of my pages are stuck together here. There we go. I think it was really hard to leave Fiji because our hearts had become bonded with the locals there. And we've prayed and sent some money back when they've had a few storms, typhoons. We were able to feed about 60 families with a gift. And had some friends. Prayed and cared for many people. Let's talk about local fare. This was a Lovo dinner where they bury sand pits and cook the meat underground. It was pretty good. We have a dog in the background. Let's see here. Okay, not in the background of the pictures, but in the background of my home here. Okay, and then some local recipes. And I had the kids keep track of the waves, the tidal waves, the tides going in and out. Saw this jewelry at the airport, just really pretty. Oh, we had a frog races. Went to a different church also, just to see a variety. Talking about no perfect church exists. And as you can see, it was hot. And my thing is, the people in Fiji need some shoes. And I need to have a drive called Flip Flops for Fiji. And this is wonderful. Pastor Epi and his family found us in the parking lot. Fried chicken's wonderful in Fiji. We ate fried chicken at the Chicken Express and had papaya ice cream or mango ice cream. We have an imaginary mouse that follows us. And this is the story. We left a surfboard for him by the door. This was his little apartment at our house in California. And then our California and Fiji friends, I had them over for Thanksgiving dinner the following year. Very thankful for them. So now, not only did I do a scrapbook, I had my children do a little captain's log. This is Mod Podge on top of. So we did a few things. His favorite incident was snorkeling. Like the octopus waving behind the rock. It was awesome. And then, so it was kind of fun to find my great aunt's legacy and able to be a part of it and kind of connect with time and pass on her legacy to my children. So that's Joshua's book. And then here's Alexandra's book. Kind of similar. Some drawings of the birds and where we were in the world. So there's her page on the little octopus there. And there you go.